We're back in the recommendation for keeping hemoglobin A1C below 5%. We're in the mechanism section. We're talking about the underlying processes that raise hemoglobin A1C over time. Let's take a look at impaired glucose uptake. Persistent elevated blood sugars can result from the muscles in our body not taking up glucose from the bloodstream. One way this happens is when there's less activity of an enzyme in the muscle membranes that is responsible for taking up glucose. I'm talking about a glucose transporter called GLUT4. GLUT4 is more active when we're using our muscles. It's less active when we're sedentary. So being sedentary lowers the activity of GLUT4. GLUT4 that is less active is taking up less glucose, leaving more in the bloodstream. You can see how exercise results in more GLUT4 production, and that leads to more glucose uptake by the muscles, which puts it out of the bloodstream, which prevents insulin resistance. So the effect of exercise is to have a normal insulin metabolism, where when glucose is present, insulin works, GLUT helps glucose into the bloodstream. The result of being sedentary is less GLUT4 activity. So despite insulin being present and lots of glucose in the bloodstream, that glucose is not able to make it into cells. And this leads to insulin resistance. We're talking about what underlies the factors that raise hemoglobin A1C, and we're exploring now the effect of excess glucose consumption. When we have a diet that's high in glycemic index, now glycemic index is a measure of the effect of food on our blood sugar after we eat it. The higher the glycemic index, the higher the glucose in our bloodstream after we eat that food. Fiber is also an important component for determining the rise in blood sugar after meals. High fiber foods slow breakdown of carbohydrates into glucose and dampen the glucose rise after meals. So it is important in regulating blood glucose to have a diet low in glycemic index and high in fiber. You can see here how high glycemic index meal causes a rapid and significant rise in blood sugar, and that causes the insulin response, which causes blood sugar to drop to below normal levels. On the other hand, on a low glycemic index diet with lots of fiber, there is a far smaller rise in blood sugar after meals. The insulin response is therefore not as great, and there is not this below normal glucose level after meals. Shown another way, high glycemic index foods high in glycemic index and low in fiber, raise blood glucose. High blood glucose raises insulin levels, and if insulin is chronically elevated, the cells stop responding to it. They downregulate receptivity or sensitivity to it, thereby initiating insulin resistance.